Hey, we're here and we're back, and we're about to have an amazing, exciting conversation that's all about creating abundance, visibility, and impact right where it matters most. Mr. Mitchell Levy is here, and he is a 2X TED speaker. He's a certified stakeholder-centered coach, a member of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches, and Mitchell is known as the credibility expert, and he has this core concept called a CPOP, a customer point of possibilities, and his CPOP is business leaders pursuing abundance with LinkedIn, which is exactly how he serves his audience. His website is socialcomplement.com. If you're struggling to grow your LinkedIn network, you can get more clients from LinkedIn. But we are about to talk about some amazing ideas. If you're someone that needs to be talking to more people, the right people, get your speaking centered, aligned, dialed in, Mr. Mitchell is exactly who you need to be listening to and speaking to. So, Mr. Mitchell, glad to see you again.
Robert, it is always good to interact with you. Thank you.
Yeah, we've known each other, I think, like 10 years now, and we just keep connecting every few years. And this last time we connected bigly, didn't we? And we connected with me helping you with podcasting and you helping me with LinkedIn. And now we see each other every week now, a couple of times a week, and we're having a blast and getting these real conversations out there and getting our hot leads, our hot clients warmed up, but also delivering value. So I'm here to find out from you just about how we can make that fun and make it sustainable, and how we can just grow a business and get traffic and help people and like pursue this speaking lifestyle that we all want, right? Everyone loves the idea of just opening their mouth and they say some amazing stuff and everyone hangs on the right people buy, and then you just become famous in a way, or internet famous, you become known. And so as far as why you're the guy to know, what do you think has you excited or focused, or what makes you stand out?
Robert, I'm going to share a little bit based on what I heard. You know what? For some people, if you don't want to do the speaking career, if you don't want to be the person that speaks and people listen, you could write and people listen, or you can just share content and articles and people listen, or you just have a series of clients that you don't have a client and then you lose it and then you find the next one, then you lose it or finish and then, right? So what we're talking about here is having a community. It's having a community of people who trust, know, and like you, or if rather trust, know, and love you. And they are a community of people who will both refer you and be part of your client base. And so how do you do that? Well, there's many ways. I love the podcast thing, and we'll do another episode where we talk about how podcasting does that. And I love LinkedIn. If your primary audience is a LinkedIn member, then the most important thing you can do, step number one, beyond everything else, is have absolute clarity of who you are. And I will tell you, 98% of the population, 98% of LinkedIn profiles, if you look at it from a perspective of clarity, they kind of suck. Right? Yeah. They suck because if you're a prospect looking at that, you're like, what is this person? Who is that person? How they show up? So number one is clarity. Number two is deploying effectively that clarity.
Ooh, nice. So we need clarity and we need to deploy it. And I keep thinking like LinkedIn's a lot like a dating site, isn't it? If you go to someone's dating site and it's like, it's old, it's out of date, it's not a good picture, there's typos in the headline, or it doesn't match up the person. It's like, well, is this person really serious? And so whether you're single or a relationship or whatever it is in business, you kind of want to be like on the market, so to speak, right? You want to be someone where if someone sees your profile, they say, ooh, this is at least maybe not someone I want to talk to and slide into their DMs yet, but someone I want to pay attention to. And I used to not even consider this, right? I used to not consider, well, when's the last time I even looked at my LinkedIn profile, looked at that picture, looked at that headline? I want to say that I would cringe, but I wouldn't even get to that point. I would like pre-cringe. I would cringe at even the thought of looking at my own headline, let alone looking at it. And since meeting you, I look at like maybe like 200 people's LinkedIn pages a day. I go on LinkedIn every day and just see what kind of relationships there are. It's my new Facebook. That's how I keep in touch with friends. But also if I want to like just talk to someone or start some new business, I look on their profile and there's like an intuitiveness at this point where I'm like, I see if someone's serious about LinkedIn and if someone's not. And so we mentioned right off the bat about how like LinkedIn's a great playground to play in. And if someone's listening today and they say, I'm on LinkedIn sometimes, but I'm kind of a hobbyist and I want to be more like Mitchell as far as using LinkedIn for business. Like, what do you think are people missing? If there's the haves and the have-nots on LinkedIn, what do the haves have?
So first, a credible LinkedIn profile. So let me tell you what that is.
Okay.
There are three spots of the LinkedIn profile. One, when you first see it, when you first go to somebody's page, is there a good picture of the person? Is there, if you look at the headline, is the headline reflective of who they are? I say, do they have a good CPOP, a customer point of possibilities? We'll talk about that in a second. And the background image. Does the background image also look professional and also includes their CPOP? And what I mean by CPOP, it's their customer point of possibilities. It's in less than 10 words, an articulation of who they serve and the pain point or pleasure point of that client, of the person they work with. And so LinkedIn is three things when you look at a LinkedIn profile. When you first get there, you're going to give, or you're going to get, if someone's going to your LinkedIn profile, you're going to get 5 seconds. Do you look credible enough when they first land to then have them want to see your social proof? Now, social proof on LinkedIn, you go to the bottom. At the bottom are places where you see your endorsements and your recommendations. And so you want the endorsements to reflect your CPOP. How cool is that? If they go to the bottom and it says 99 plus on things that you say you're good at, that is the world telling the person who's looking that you actually have social proof. Take a look at your recommendations. Do you come across as somebody who's good, who's worthy, who's basically a servant leader, who has the intent and commitment to do the right thing, someone with integrity? And then the next thing I often look at is I'll then go back to the middle of the profile. I'll look at their about section, right? So that's if I'm going to give somebody 2 or 3 minutes. But first thing you need to do, credible LinkedIn profile, first 5 seconds. The next step of things you want to do, actually, I'm going to show this in step 1 on having a good go-to-market LinkedIn strategy is a credible LinkedIn profile. Step 2, nurture your first level connections. Right? And there's a couple of different ways to nurture first level connections. The most easiest is celebrating life. So happy birthday. Congrats on anniversary. So happy anniversary. Or congrats on the new job. And you should be consistently sending messages to your first level connections when that happens. By the way, that's the hard part, consistently doing it.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting thing. When they say thank you, or they say, thank you, how are you? You need to be in your LinkedIn Messenger and you need to go, I'm doing great. It's been so long. Let's get time on the calendar. Robert, that's how you and I have always connected, right? It's the LinkedIn. We've been able to communicate that way. The third part of being effective with LinkedIn is cultivating or grabbing people who are your second or third level connections and making them your first level connections. So that, are you ready? You can nurture them, right? And so one way to nurture is, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And for those on the radio, you've never seen it. So what I'm going to do is say, I'll give you an example. Recently got back from London. I have 407 first level connections on London. So what I did is we were staying with friends and hanging out with my wife. And so I didn't have a lot of time for quote unquote the business side. But what I did do is send out a message to 407 people. And I say, hey, listen, I'm going to be in London at a pub between 12 and 4. If you want to come, please do. And if you can't make it but want to talk, here's my calendar link. So I ended up having 2% of people come. So 8 people showed up. I was really happy with that. 8 people booked time on my calendar, another 2%. And then 10% or 40 people are people who we're now looking at and doing things with. That is what I consider nurturing your first level connections.
That's great. And I think LinkedIn's really saved me. I don't know about you, but like the last 10 years, my email delivery ability has been on the decline. And this term nurturing, they use it a lot in terms of an email sequence, right? If someone maybe doesn't love you enough at that point, but they know you enough to say, hey, this guy Mitchell, he's got like a free PDF, right? He's got some free something. I enter my email address and then I get these emails every now and then. If I start seeing him in my inbox. I start clicking. Yeah, he warms me up. I start consuming the content. That's kind of the old school ideal sequence. But then now we're in this day and age of social media that's really just like killed a lot of email stuff. And then there was this period, again, I don't know about you, but with like Facebook, I really tried to have Facebook fill that gap. But Facebook's a place to play around, right? A place to like and share and hang out with your friends. And then when LinkedIn transformed from a job resume site into this place where if you're you still want to say buy my stuff, right? That's spamming, but it's a place where like people are looking to do business, and where it's like Facebook, but the workplace edition. I was like, hey, now there's something here. And so what you're saying here is you have this profile, right? You have your headline, you have your background image, you have your profile picture, and you use this idea of a customer point of possibilities to identify who your people are and what their pain and what their pleasure is. And you do all the refining, the iterating, the talking it through to get it down to 10 words or less. So that way it's an attention getter. And then when someone is looking into you, again, it's like the dating site idea, or it's even like when you apply for a job, right? They're looking for certain things. And so if someone sees your LinkedIn, they're looking for certain things. They see, does this person get my attention? They scroll down, they look at the endorsements, which is, I think of it as kind of like your Google EEAT, right? It's your expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. Google says, well, this guy Mitchell, what are his keywords? Is his keywords LinkedIn? And is he associated with other LinkedIn gurus? Okay, now we'll kind of elevate his credibility there. So people, your friends, your peers, they can click on these endorsement buttons to kind of like say like these keywords. I certify that I know he's good at that. And then there's like recommendations, which are like the kind of the block of a paragraph of reviews. So you do this kind of the networking to get this credibility figured out, and then you do the DMing. You send the messages, but again, not to say by myself, but to get these relationships going. And this kind of idea here of the different level of connections. I think that people, they can look at someone's LinkedIn profile and they can understand the concept of like, okay, third level connection, right? That means that they're not my direct friend, but they're a friend of a friend. And so if someone is connected with me on LinkedIn, that's someone that I should kind of be having the conversation with. If they're a second level, they're someone I should friend and just kind of warm them up. It's kind of like, remember that show Quantum Leap, Mitchell, where like the
Oh yeah,
guy would have he'd
yeah.
have the little
Lot of
keypad. He'd be,
backstory. Yeah.
yeah, and Dean Stockwell would be like, well, there's an 86% chance you're here to like make this wedding happen. And then if it would go wrong, he's like, we're down to 20%. But then if he got to 100%, then he'd like glow blue and he'd go to the next mission. So you think of in sales, there's like, what's the percentage of success, right? Am I talking to Mitchell? And are we at warmed up to like 60%? Are we at 70%? And you kind of move things along. You congratulate them on their birthday, on their new job. You increase the percentage, and then you meet on a Zoom, on a phone call, and just kind of get the percentage figured out of like, well, am I going to buy from them, or are they going to buy from me, or will we refer one or the other out there? Now it's like, okay, all of this kind of the networking churn, which kind of people, if they don't have a strategy, it feels like a waste of time. Now with some of the things you said, now it kind of makes sense, right? Now it seems more worthwhile, and then it's leading to something.
I always think about the person I'm talking to as a referral partner. It makes it so much easier when you have a conversation because even if they're a prospect, if you say, "Hey, listen, there's somebody in your network who I know you know that so and and they need this because," and you tell them why, and this is what we do, and oftentimes they're, "Would you mind referring me?" And oftentimes that type of referral partner will go, "Yeah, you know what, I might be a client as well." Actually, that's what happened with you and I, Robert. Right?
Yeah.
Is that the thing that's important? Social media is one of those things that has been taken out of context, right? It doesn't mean you have a microphone and you yell from the rooftops, "Buy my stuff." Social media, the first word of social media is social. You just have access to media. There's no gatekeeper that's stopping you from having access. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to have in your network, the numbers are irrelevant. You can have a really slim number of people connected to you in LinkedIn if that's the right number of people. And
Right.
so what's appropriate is that you have people who trust you, who know you, who like you or love you and want to recommend you. And then what you're doing is on a very consistent, the general model that we have is we're encouraging you to focus on spending time in what's called LinkedIn Messenger. It's when people actually respond to you. That's where you have your conversations. In Facebook, it'd be, just a Facebook feed, And so in LinkedIn Messenger, what you want to do, if you wish somebody a happy birthday and they respond, if it's the right person, you respond in a certain way, right? And often my responses is to get people into a Zoom call, right? Because I want to know, I'm curious, who are they? How are they doing? Where do they need help? Where can I recommend to somebody I know? And if it turns out that they could be a good prospect, I'll tell them what I'm doing and see if it's a good fit, right? And that's really, at the end of the day, it's not about creating that post that goes viral, whether it's a video or the post or something else. Because I have friends who have 2 million followers on LinkedIn. Their posts are absolutely going to get more likes and more comments than mine, but they'll also tell you that they've never received a client from those posts. So where do you get your clients? Well, depending on who you are, if you're a service-based professional, you get them from the relationship when they trust, know, and like you. And so that's what social compliment's about. It's about allowing you to fine-tune your messaging, to focus on what's important to you, and then to allow your audience to understand where you love spending time and who you are, and nurturing to the state where they're either referring you or potentially being one of your clients.
Well, that's wonderful. And it seems like there's a little bit of a feedback loop in place there, right? Because even in this last Accountability Monday meeting, this keyword came up of comedians trying out their material. So there's just this idea of, well, there's somewhat of a math problem to be had. Even you used that story a moment ago about going to London, doing kind of the workcation, right? There's this a collection of people that fit this criteria, and this percentage fits through this funnel, and so you put in this amount of work to kind of nurture these conversations, and then and in doing so you figure out, well, is my messaging working? Is what I'm saying getting them on this call? Once they're on the call, is it leading to something worthwhile, like these objectives that we're seeing, right? It might be by myself, might be something else, but it's like, well, we do have to make money, and we don't want to just be on calls all the time just for fun, and because life is short, right? You want to actually build a real business. But then once you do, you figure out, aha, I said this, and here's a meeting that went really well. Here's the type of person I want to talk to. Here's what I said that seemed like it made sense to me, it made sense to them. We have this congruency or this alignment or whatever the keywords that the kids these days like to throw out. And then I imagine then you go back to that webinar, the PowerPoint slides, even your social compliment messages, and you say, aha, based on, I did my best guess, and based on what worked, you kind of are applying like a scientific method, so to speak, and you go back and you say, aha, I'll use what worked and kind of make my LinkedIn profile better, make those messages better, and it just seems like you're continuously improving.
Man, thanks for reminding me. It was so we one part of we get with social compliment is every Monday we do Accountability Monday, and the last time we were there, Robert, you mentioned something amazing. And so once you have a CPOP, once you have the ability to articulate where you're showing up, where you're executing on your purpose in less than 10 words, you need to test drive it. You update your LinkedIn profile, you start sending some messages, you start talking to people, and then you start seeing how they react to your messaging. And every now and then you're going to go, this is not right. I'm attracting a certain level of people, and it's kind of the stuff I don't want to do. Maybe I need to adjust my CPOP, adjust where I'm going to market, and we'll try it again. And that's really what social compliment's about. It's the exact same thing. You mentioned this. It's the exact same thing that a comedian does, right? They'll write some jokes, then they'll fly around the country on these local comedy clubs and test drive their stuff. And some of the jokes they thought would be amazing flopped, and vice versa. And so as they fine tuned it, then they take the jokes that work and bring it on to more successful locations. Love that. Thank you.
And thank you for doing what you do and teaching what you teach. And there's like that idea of Tony Robbins. There's the six human needs, right? And there's like the variety and the uncertainty, which is like, well, you want something consistent that works, that's reliable, so that way you're not leaving it up to random chance, but enough wiggle room where you enjoy the process. And then there's connection, which is you can you having a good relationship with others, and love, which is people having a good relationship with you. And it's like by making this LinkedIn thing work and using social compliment and plugging it into our business and our CPOP, it seems like a path for all of that to work, right? Because you kind of have an ideal process. You say, well, here's what my profile should say, what my messaging should say, what the Zoom calls should say, what the follow-up should be like. I kind of know what I'm doing where I could do it in my sleep, but I have the variety if I'm talking to all kinds of different people. And so I don't get bored with it. And it's not just an AI generated same old thing in, same old thing out. There's still that human aspect of it. And it seems like it can be a lot of fun, especially if we don't just expect the AI and the software to do it. Because I've talked to maybe six other people that have like the LinkedIn automation, and I don't really like what I hear. Right? They say like, oh, well, you pile in all this AI stuff, and they send messages, and when someone replies, the AI replies with something else. And I like your approach better, which is you sort of just like tee up these conversations, right? You kind of slowly over time kind of get a few people set up for you, and then you yourself can go and have these conversations, and then that gives kind of you the food for your brain, like the raw materials to kind of make your own speaking a little bit better. And so as far as someone using social compliment or seeing if the social compliment like lifestyle, so to speak, or I'm sure you have a better term, but like just the getting on board with this idea, like who's the kind of person that should be pursuing this, and what's the game plan?
Ooh, that's a great question. If you look at your customer base and who you really engage with, and your customers, where they spend their time, their primary platform is LinkedIn, this is a good fit for you. Now, obviously, it depends on the product. If you're selling a $2 lollipop, it may not be the right approach for you. It's not the right model. But if you're selling services, if you're selling products, if you need to engage manufacturing companies, tech companies, if if the clients that you're interacting with are on LinkedIn, you need to build relationships. And when I say you, if you're a solopreneur, you as a business owner, if you're a CMO of a 1,000-person company, how powerful would it be if your sales and marketing force, maybe even your engineers, if they could stand it, right? We're all on LinkedIn, but all speaking the same language. Now, not clones, because there are programs that do that, but it's really about what you said before, which was interesting. There are many people that will give you a formula. A formula says, hey, E equals MC squared. If you do this, you get that. Well, that doesn't work in marketing. What social compliment is a framework. If you can actually, if you're a credible human and you have a servant leader orientation and you want to be of value to others, what we do with social compliment is give you a framework that you could use to start test driving who you are and how you show up. And as you're hitting some level of success, you do a little bit more of that. As you hit a couple blocks in the wall, you do adjustments as appropriate. And the more people on your team that are also adding value, that's when it gets really, really interesting, because that's when, is my favorite thing, that's when 1+1 = 11, right? When you have your team working for you, also creating their own network, their own community of referral partners and prospects.
Very nice. And that's what leadership is all about, isn't it? Of like kind of getting everyone to be proactive and getting everyone to kind of get the word out about your company, but having their own independence and their own agency. And building their own relationships. And it's great to think about, especially with people using your tool, which is called socialcomplement.com, where you can grow your network consistently, you can engage with the right people, and focus on what matters, which means spending less time on LinkedIn while still growing your business. And as far as just this LinkedIn strategy and people using LinkedIn correctly, is there something that kind of angers you about the way it's done? Like, you and I have riffed a little bit about people just kind of hoping for the viral post on one extreme, people saying buy my stuff. But as far as like using it on a daily basis and being consistent, making it a habit, is there any way that you see people going really wrong? And because we're on a podcast, someone can say, ooh, I'll make sure not to do that. Anything come to mind?
If you don't, there's a couple. Make sure you spend time updating your LinkedIn profile. It's very clear of who you are and how you show up. I do recommend that you post once a week, but thinking you're going to post and have it go viral and spend so much time telling people to read your post and do it, that doesn't make sense either. Going on LinkedIn and saying buy my stuff, right? Those are three things that not having a good profile, making sure that you spend time putting content out there so you're current, but don't worry about the virality of that. And trying to get people to buy before they're ready. If you do the right job, people are just going to come and they're going to be part of your community and want to buy from you and even ask you what's next. How do I actually do this? And that's the cool part.
And that's what we want, right? We want to be there and not be too pushy, and to have a large enough circle of friends where, like, if that need exists, then one of your referral partners says, ooh, I know exactly the guy for this, right? It's Mitchell. You should go talk to him. And that sales conversation is a lot less stressful and a lot smoother, right? Because if someone comes to you and they're already somewhat pre-educated from your content, they're already pre-warmed up because they came recommended from a friend, and then you yourself are already prepared because you have the profile figured out, you have the content figured out, you've done these calls before, and you're just kind of doing more of the same thing, and you're having a relaxed, fun, chill time when you're just saying, hey, here's a person where they need my stuff. And even if it's not the right timing right now, or if they're like 70% of the way there, but not 100%, I still got some ideas for more content, or I can follow up when they're ready. And if they are a good fit, man, that's quite a lock in as well. And it just seems like what we all thought internet marketing was supposed to be, right? Where you say, I'll set up my stuff, I'll go through my process, I'll play that math game of maybe I'll go see the sun in Seattle, or I go on the vacation with the wife in London, and I have my people, I'll warm them up, I'll do a little bit of an event, I'll walk them through the process, and we'll all have fun doing it and change some lives, get some clients, make some money in the process. And so what's the next step here? If someone says, a lot of this sounds like it makes a lot of sense, and I like the idea of kind of doing the recursive feedback loop of like updating my profile, talking to the right people. How do they look into Social Complement and possibly start that conversation with you?
I believe that we have a nice frequently asked questions area and some testimonials from people. So going to socialcomplement.com will allow you to actually, if you like what you hear and you like what you see, just go in and buy and we'll get rolling. And most likely, as soon as you buy, you'll get a half hour worth of training material, and then you set an onboarding session. And whoever's working with you, and hopefully it's me, but whoever's working with you will actually onboard you into the system. You could get all that from Social Complement. If you've got a couple different questions, you could also click on, hey, I want to speak to somebody, and book time on the calendar. And at the moment, once again, hopefully it's me, and I think it will be, but we have other people who are answering as well. So if this is of interest to you, take a look at the site, see what you see if it feels comfortable for you. There's certain quality of person who comes on who goes, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. What I'm going to tell you, there's no one size fits all answer. The LinkedIn, the bespoke LinkedIn program that works for you has to be crafted around you, has to be crafted around your CPOP. It's who you serve and their pain point or pleasure point. And after that, everything falls into place. And so that's really where we start.
Well, wonderful. And so if that sounds like you out there in podcast land, if you say, LinkedIn is a place where I need to hang out, or I do hang out, but I need to be more deliberate and consistent about it. I need these results to pay off. And there are, of course, things to be figured out. And that's why it hasn't worked out for you figuring it out by yourself. You need someone like Mr. Mitchell Levy, who has this blend of there's the software and there's the coaching of it, right? If he just said, hey, use the software, click the buttons, you wouldn't be consistent with it. And if he just coached you through it, it's like, well, what about plugging into some of that automation? Well, now this has both, and it's at socialcomplement.com. And we have to make sure to be good English spellers, because it's complement like things working together, not compliment like, hey, nice hat. So the
Oh,
hey,
by the
nice
way,
hat.
I got the other one. It'll redirect.
Oh, perfect. So even if you're a bad speller, social compliment or complement, that's very impressive. That's very nice. So either one will work, because LinkedIn networking is time consuming and overwhelming. And if you're not actively engaging, then you're missing out on potential leads and opportunities. And you deserve a LinkedIn strategy that works for you without eating up your time. And that strategy comes from Mr. Mitchell Levy and socialcomplement.com. And before I let you go, Mr. Mitchell, as people are heading to Social Complement, it's time for the scary part of the show, where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking you for a fun or a helpful quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business. So what comes to mind for a quote or lesson?
I'm going to give you a definition and a quote.
Right.
Legacy, the definition of legacy is what people say about you when you're not in a room. So the legacy of a business leader is written in the success of the stakeholders, your clients, your partners, those your employees.
Right. So we want to have that, right? We don't just want to be flash in the pan. We want people to say good things about us, so that way we create a business that's beyond ourselves, and we can begin that process of having someone else help us with the problem by going to socialcomplement.com. Go there, click on the get started button, book that discovery call. You'll be glad you did. And you'll start using LinkedIn in a way that serves you, instead of being a time waster, or instead of you having that FOMO, the fear of missing out, the envy of seeing other people who, man, why is their profile better than me, right? Well, why do they have more followers than me? And Mitchell says, well, maybe they have more followers, more engagement, but do they actually get clients from it? Well, now you can have the last laugh. You can be the person that does get clients from LinkedIn, someone that uses it every day, grows your business. And the first step on this journey is by going to socialcomplement.com. We'll see you there. And thank you, Mr. Mitchell Levy, TEDx speaker, and so much more, inventor of the CPOP. Thank you for showing up, educating us, helping us out.
My pleasure. Robert, thanks so much for having me. It's always good to engage with you, my friend.